Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is JGOD. In today's video we're going to be talking about a few different tips and tricks to help players improve by breaking down subscribers gameplay. In today's video we're going to be breaking down two different subscribers gameplay. So if at any point you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you subscribe if you want to find your way back to the channel. So let's go ahead and get into the first gameplay breakdown. So the first gameplay we'll look at is a little bit of sniper gameplay, and then we have something a little bit different for the second gameplay. And the main reason I want to focus on some of these is because a lot of times I get asked, hey, do you do this type of breakdown? Do you get this type of breakdown? And pretty much I'll break down whatever gameplay as long as it's pretty much average for you. And what I mean by that is if you have a regular 2.0 KD and you put up a match, I don't expect you to have a 15 KD in the match. I'd rather you have, maybe go 20 and 10, and then I could break it down and say, okay, how do we improve from your 2.0 KD to get you up to 2.5 or 3, or from a 1 all the way up to 2. Everyone's a little bit different, and what we're going to look at in this particular scenario is how you're going to be able to use a sniper effectively so you get the maximum amount of kills, least amount of deaths. And when it comes to sniping, there's only really one area that I can really talk about, and that is how you position to win more gunfights. And that's because when it comes to accuracy with the sniper, there's not really much I can teach you. All I can say is find your right sensitivity, but at the end of the day, you're either going to have to hit your shots or you don't. And that's pretty much how it ends up working out. You can see how you got that pretty clean quick scope. Screen is centered fairly well. That's very important in sniping. You can see how he's kind of navigating around. He knows someone's around this area. He's kind of pre-aiming that area, peeks out, jumps out, snipes again. And that is a pretty clean type of snipe. What you can see right here is he ended up engaging a little bit too quickly instead of assuming someone would be coming from that spawn. A lot of times it's very hard, especially with a paladin sniper, because the fire rate is a little bit slower. When you go ahead and re-engage, you can actually die rather quickly. Looks like he got hit with the sniper there as well. So he ends up going against another sniper. Kind of a head-to-head. That's why it looks a little bit goofy. But he's able to drag onto the guy and take the guy out. So pretty nice move. See how he's kind of moving around, playing a little bit slower. And that's kind of what you want to do. And keep in mind that if you're going to run around with the sniper and be a sniper main, meaning that all you're going to use is snipers, you're not going to be using pistols, you're not going to be using shotguns, rifles, SMGs. Keep in mind that your KD will suffer slightly because the games are designed with regular guns in mind. They're not necessarily designed for you to be a sniper. And a lot of times you'll see this in other good players' gameplay. Plenty of well-known snipers like Pomage and Sprat do not have super stellar KDs. They're usually sitting around the 2 to 3 KD mark, whereas if they had regular guns, they could probably have a 4 or a 5. So you can see he's kind of switched up his approach slightly. Before he was kind of sticking in the building, and now he's coming around this left side, but he is kind of focused on where these enemies are. And since he is playing kill confirmed, there's a lot of irregularities when it comes to the spawns. They can be very erratic when they flip from side to side. So based on all the information I got right here, it looks like the enemy player spawned on that opposite side directly behind where he was looking, because the player that's playing right now, he just spawned in on this side of the map, which tells me that the opposite spawn is where the enemies are. So a lot of times that's where it can get a little bit wonky because he literally came all the way around, but he didn't clear out the spawn. So it was a high probability that enemies were going to still be coming from behind him. Just like right now, the spawn's flipped. He spawned in this direction. So a lot of times that spawn knowledge is important. Got to clear it out to make sure that you're confident that no one's going to come from behind you unless you're getting flanked, but you have a much lower probability of getting flanked than actually getting spawned on. Personally, I would be focusing on the area that was away from the spawn that he just came through, but he's kind of focused on this little back area where he just spawned in, and this was ends up leading to his death. The guy kind of jumps in, probably would have jumped in anyways, been kind of behind him, but for the most part, since he is spawning on this side, almost all the enemies will be coming in front of him. So that's pretty much where all of his attention should be. Paying attention to where his teammates are, knowing that the spawn's behind him. More than likely, all the enemies will be in front of him. So that was a pretty quick clean scope with a slight drag to the aim down sight as he scoped in, which allowed him to get that kill. And a lot of times you have to have a little bit faster sensitivity to make those adjustments. Able to get a double kill there, and instead of getting behind cover, he's still out in the open, and that's how he ends up dying. At least the teammate would have came in for backup, and he would have been positioned in a much better way. So right here, it looks like there's enemies pretty deep into his spawn, so as he's coming right out of spawn, they're kind of locking down the area. You can see that the barricade's there, so he's got to play a little bit safer. Come around this right side, but that makes your movement a little bit more predictable. He knows someone's there, he's able to snap on, take them out. Still kind of pre-aiming a little bit, and you can see that all the enemies are kind of pushing his teammates. So instead of backing up, he ends up pushing forward. So that was more of a strategy issue. I would have kind of backed up a little bit as they came through the doorway, kind of quick scoped on the doorway, and you could have been able to at least kill one of them and maybe reposition, go for a flank or something like that. But he's going the direct route where he doesn't really have much movement or control because of this barbed wire. The other side, it has the little barricade, so he's kind of screwed on that scenario. So overall, I'd say this is a pretty good player. He pulls out his specialist weapon and just goes ham. But for the most part, it seems like they're a very good player, very accurate. The biggest problem is the decision making, which I think a lot of us struggle with. Even myself, in the moment, I'm going to make mistakes, but that's where you kind of break down your own gameplay, look at it and see, hey, what could I have done differently? Should I have gone this route? Is there any other options that I had? In some cases, there's nothing you can do. You're going to get swarmed, you're going to get killed. There's no preemptive changes that you can make that make it so you'll never die. But at the end of the day, you can reduce certain risks so you die less often, which will eventually lead to longer streaks, which will lead to more score streaks, which will lead to more kills, and that kind of chain effect will raise your KD, score per minute, and win-loss ratio. And that'll pretty much wrap it up for the first player's gameplay. If you guys would like to have your gameplay broken down, make sure you check out the description. Follow me on Twitter so you can stay connected. And just a heads up, I have started a second YouTube channel for the Division 2, so if you want to follow me on there, make sure you subscribe. I'll leave that link down in the description as well. So let's go ahead and jump into the second player's gameplay. So next gameplay we'll take a look at is the dual wield SOG, and you can see right here they end up getting meleeed right off the bat. They are running that acoustic sensor, but when it comes to this type of weapon, I am a bigger fan of using the stim shot. And the main reason for that is because you're more than likely going to take damage in almost every gunfight you have. Although this weapon class setup is very powerful, the problem that I'm seeing is how they're actually using it. You got to be able to close the distance. Instead of standing there, you should have been able to slide, get as close as possible, fire in, and insta melt that person. Same thing with this scenario, kind of just standing still, not even strafing to the right, not even pushing forward, sliding and close that distance. Obviously that scenario was a little bit trickier because there's two people coming directly at them, but you got to be able to have that advanced movement. Treat it almost as if you were running around with a jetpack. You have to move quick, slide, jump, do whatever you can to make yourself a harder target to hit, because everyone you run up against is going to be able to aim down sight, directly look at you, and at any distance they're going to be able to land shots. Versus with you, you're going to have a little bit wider hip fire spread, have to be able to line up the target. You see how this one closed that distance, jump right out the window, gets an easy double kill. Pushing through here, instead of sliding towards them, he kind of just continues to walk, not even run. You got to be able to run, slide, and end up firing your weapons. Would have probably got the double kill, hit the guy in the doorway. So a lot of this has to come down to a lot slower movement, which the person's not correcting as they play. So maybe they just don't know they need to be playing like that, or they don't really play with these weapons very often. And that's one tip I think I have for everyone watching the videos. A lot of times you're going to have to adapt to the weapon you're using. The first scenario we saw with the sniper rifle, the player has to adapt. If that's not something they use all the time and they're trying to go for quick scopes, you're going to have to adapt your play style. Obviously, when you switch to SMGs, rifles, whatever weapon you're going to be using, and adapt your play style slightly to fit the weapon, and not necessarily try and force the weapon to fit your play style. Obviously, there's some extremely good players that can pick up any weapon, play super aggressive with it because they have super fast reflexes and they're able to snap on targets and they have really good luck or whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, that's not the best route for everyone. Ideally, you're going to want to adjust your gameplay to fit the weapon's playstyle, not necessarily your own. To elaborate a little bit more on that tip, all I gotta say is you got to play to the strengths of the weapon. Obviously with the double SOG, the strength is at point blank range. If you're gonna be using the Rampart or the ICR or the SWAT or whatever it is, a rifle, you're gonna engage most people at medium to long range. So you're gonna want all those engagements to be at those ranges. If you're gonna be using a sniper rifle, if you're gonna be quick scoping, maybe close range. If you're gonna be hard scoping, maybe far range. There's a lot of variables to consider, but at the end of the day, play to the strengths of the weapon. This weapon set up right now is for point blank range, so every engagement should be at that point blank range and doing all you can to force those engagements. As he comes around this left side, it's an ideal way to go because there's not really long sight lines on this left side. He's peeking around, doesn't have really good map awareness at this point. You can see that the acoustic sensor is going off, but a lot of times when you get in people's faces, they're going to be able to hit you at least once. So that's where the stim shot would come in, slide in, take a little bit of damage, take them out, heal, get to the next engagement, heal, get to the next engagement, and we kind of repeat that cycle. The other issue with the acoustic sensors, you don't really learn much about map awareness and positioning. A lot of times you're just chasing the little red cone on your mini map. You can see right here he ends up getting killed. He ends up looking kind of, where the heck is this guy? The guy went all the way around. The guy kills him because the guy's looking around, or either can hear him or whatever the case is. He's just running non-stop, not even focused on what's going on because it looks like he's over-focused on where that red cone is. So a lot of times that's a big issue when you use the acoustic sensor. You end up too reliant on it. Obviously, it's a good tool for brand new players, kind of check where people are to reduce the chances of you getting flanked, but it's not always the best route when you're actually trying to learn how to control the map, how to position, how how to flank, all these different variables that come into it on actually improving your map awareness and knowledge, is not really the best tool for that. So now they pulled out that specialist weapon, got a little bit more range on them. They're going to play a little bit different, but for the most part, that wraps up both of the player gameplays. If you did enjoy the video, please remember to hit that like button. If you want to find your way back to the channel, hit the subscribe button with notifications on. We'll see you guys on the next one. Appreciate the support. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.